May I pause just a moment and explain to women something that you probably never hear men say, because some men are not articulate enough to say it, some are not thoughtful enough to speak it, and most are too private to admit it, but it is real hard to be a man. Now, you have a whole lot of materials and information that undergirds the challenges you go through, and I'm not minimizing what you go through at all, because you go through a whole lot. But just let me tell you, just so that you will know, since you have never spent not one day as a man, let me inform you quite clearly and emphatically that it is hard to be a man. That's why most give up on it, most quit, most faint from it, most fall because of it, and almost all of us die trying to do it. Oh yes, the devil is out to destroy men. If you look around this room, you will find many saged, aged, gray women. Go to your family reunions and you will see grandmama and big mama and Aunt Kivy, and they're all standing around in the kitchen talking about, girl, is that chicken done yet? I don't know, mama, let me turn it over in a minute. Get that bread out the oven before it burns. But have you ever asked yourself, where are Grandpapa and Big Papa and Uncle Willie? What happened to Cousin James? What is wrong with our generation that there are few old men left? That means we have few compasses to chart the course and to lead us through the maze of trying to get to our destination on time. We have many men who model to us how to get started, but few that live long enough to show us how to finish. Show us how to make it through the different ages and stages of life, because the challenges of a 20-year-old is far different from the challenges of a 50-year-old, is far different from the challenges of a 70-year-old, and you need somebody who's been there to coach you through the process and look you in the mirror and say, keep coming, boy, don't give up now. I know you lost your job, but keep on coming, keep on, you can do this, don't give up, come on, boy, come on, I know your feelings is hurt, come on, no, you're not gonna be able to do what you used to do 20 years ago, you're not supposed to. You're gonna have to readjust and develop a new normal. Come on. If you come on, you're gonna get through this. Don't give up, don't follow her. She's not the answer, she's a trick. Keep coming this way. We don't. Now, I'm gonna talk to you tonight. See, you and Big Mama can sit around while y'all picking collard greens, and you can talk to her and she can tell you something. And there's an old woman standing on every corner full of advice ready to tell you, girl, well, this is what you ought to do. But we have few fathers, few voices, few compasses, few teachers, few leaders, few guides to speak to us in the process. And that is why we get lost in the journey of becoming what we were created to be. We get lost in the process. Some as early as 15 and 16 years old get lost in the maze of masculinity. Some make it to 30 and collapse up under a bush of despair. Some are getting to the middle of their lives, changing their sexual orientation, giving up on women altogether, going after men, and you can't figure out why it is. There's nobody coaching us saying, not that way, go this way. Come on, go this way, go this way. Some men are not articulate enough to say it, some are not thoughtful enough to speak it, and most are too private to admit it, but it is real hard to be a man. I want to make one comment about understanding men, and I think it is very, very important. Most women in our society were raised in homes where there either was no father, or he was a workaholic, or he was a silent person. So the man becomes, the male persona becomes a mystery in the woman's life. Because he is a mystery, we always crave not what we got, we crave what we didn't get. So in that craving need, because you were designed to have certain levels of fulfillment through relationship. We are sociological species. There is such an admiration that it leads to promiscuity, it leads to vulnerability, it leads to a lot of things. You can get a man easier than you can keep one, and this is why. One, you have been trained, when you get him, you don't understand him because you think he is another kind of woman.
Yes.
You talk to him like he is your sister. You handle him like he is a woman wearing a suit. And you are expecting him to love you in the language that a woman loves you. And that is not how we communicate. That is not how we communicate. You think that because we love differently, we don't love equally. Wow. Different does not mean lesser than. We are made to be different. We are not just different biologically, we are different psychologically, we are different emotionally. And what has to happen, there has to come a healing and a deeper understanding so that we become bilingual enough in our communication that you begin to understand that because he doesn't love in your language doesn't mean that he doesn't love at all. I want to say one more thing. I've got a 2-year-old grandbaby at home. She walks around the house dragging a doll all the time. She's already got a cookware set. At 2, she is practicing to be a wife and a mother. My grandson is not practicing to handle babies or to play a father. You have been scripted for a role all of your life that men have not been scripted for. And so by the time you get 18, 20, 30, 40, you've got 40 years of experience in building a persona because you have an idea of what marriage will be like that you built alone. Wow. You didn't build it with us, you built it by yourself. And then you want to bring us in like you brought Ken into Barbie's dollhouse to fit your idea. We are different, we love differently, we have deep emotions, we have deep compassions, and basically, if you can understand men, we are really quite simple. There are very few things that a man needs to be happy. But those things are critical. You may be working hard to give him something that he does not need at all and missing something that he's desperate to have. Listen, let me say to you why this is important. This is not just so important so that you can drop your handkerchief and Prince Charming can pick it up and run up the stairs. Whether you have a son in your life, whether you have an estranged father in your life, or whether you're a woman working in corporate America, you are going to have to speak to men.
Yes.
If you speak to a man in his language, if you negotiate with him with facts and not feelings, if you come to him intellectually, you can win, you can get the contract, you can do the deal, you can get the business done, you can get your son away from gangs, you can get your son away from drugs, and you can win your husband. But ladies, let me tell you something about winning your husband. Be his wife, not his pastor. Stop preaching to him. Stop trying to condemn him. Stop turning your house into a sanctuary. A man needs a castle where he can do him. And when you start using the pastor against him, you make men hate church. The man must be the king in his house. Don't bring any other man's image in the house. Am I right about it? And I think it was important to say to women that are loose, but I want to say something to my sisters, and I want you to understand me well. The enemy does want to bind you. He does want to bind you. But I want to tell you something, sisters. The enemy really isn't after you. He really isn't after you. He wants to bind you. But he doesn't have to worry about killing you. You remember when David came down to Ziklag and the women were taken into captivity and the men had to go get the women and get them out. When he brought those women out of captivity, encouraged himself in the Lord and saw them transform, they didn't kill the women, they trapped them. And all through the Bible talks about women being trapped, talks about silly women being trapped, because the enemy wants to trap women, but he wants to kill men. So to the woman, we are talking about women that are loose, but when it comes to the man, we are fighting for our lives because the devil wants to kill men. You know why? I want you to understand what's going on, sister. The enemy knows that if he kills your man or your son or your father, He doesn't have to kill you. You'll spend the rest of your life with your heart broken over who fell apart, who didn't love you, who didn't raise you, who didn't turn out like you thought, who wasn't there for you. He'll break your heart with what he does to your son and what happened to your father or what happened to your husband or your boyfriend, and he'll break your back as you carry weight that you were never built to carry because you had no man to stand by your side. And he'll seek to terminate and destroy the life of men because he knows he gets 2 for 1. When he gets a man, he gets you too. That's why in the book, in the Bible, it talks about in the King James Version to destroy everyone that pisses against the wall. It means to destroy everything that stands up when it urinates. The devil is after men. That's why when Moses was born, there was a decree made by Pharaoh to destroy every male child under 2 years old. He didn't wait till they got old. He started out early wanting to kill them lest they become kings and giants and enter into their destiny. Men are on the hit list of hell. That's why when the baby Jesus was born, Joseph had to take him down into Egypt and hide him for 2 years because Satan had a contract out for men and he was willing to kill every male child until he got to that child, because the prophecy in the book of Genesis said that the seed of the woman would rise up and bruise the head of the seed of the serpent. My sister, he's not after you, he's after your seed. Well, what seed does the woman have? The woman's seed is her son. The prophecy is in the male child. He wants to kill your seed, your son, your father, the masculine voice in your house, until it becomes strange to your daughter to hear a man's voice in the house. So she'll be so desperate for the voice of a man or the touch of a man that the only man who ever touched her was the man who was laying on top of her. He's after the male child. That's why male children die of crib death more readily than women. More male stillborns than female. I don't just have to stay in the spirit, we can go in the natural. Our male baby boys die more readily at early ages, contract more diseases than their female counterparts. Hear me good. That's why insurance companies are predisposed to expect the man to die. They expect it so well that when a pastor builds a church, they want a key man policy on him. So if he terminates his life, the bill will still be paid. They expect him to die because he's a man, and that's what men do. They die. They expect it so well that they're advising women to have a plan because you outlive us by 10 to 15 years. We die. That's what we do. We die. We die with our backs bent over and our heads and our hearts broken, stressed out, wounded and hurting, trying to figure out what in the world happened to the dream we had. I'm not saying you're not a great woman. I'm not saying you're not a great wife. I'm not saying you're not a great mother. But it is difficult for a man to play a role in a house that he has never seen acted out in all of his life. And somewhere along the way, every man in this room has wanted to quit. And if he stayed, whether he took out the trash or not, and if he stayed, whether he got his degree or not, and if he stayed, and whether he's everything you want him to be or not, you owe it to him to tip your hat and say, thanks for staying. Because a good man is so hunted by Satan and sickness and diseases and heart attacks and cancers and curses and rejections and perversions that a good man is almost extinct. We have got to fight back. Was a man's life. Because he is a mystery, we always crave not what we got, we crave what we didn't get. So in that craving need, because you were designed to have certain levels of fulfillment through relationship, we are a sociological species, there is such an admiration that it leads to promiscuity, it leads to vulnerability, it leads to a lot of things.